Welcome everybody to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm here with my good friends Dan and Angel, Lori and Jason, and today we are talking about the book Love, Life, God by Jarrad Hewett, and we're continuing our discussion of Chapter 3. But before we get going, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you're watching us live on Facebook, then comment below, let us know that you're out there. If you're watching us on Facebook or as on YouTube as a recording, then please like this video and share it. Subscribe to our channel so you get updated every time we upload a new video. But okay, so guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves and then we can get this chat going.
I'm Angel down here in South Carolina.
Dan Sisek in Las Vegas, where we are having a little bit warmer than normal weather, so I'm really liking it, but it's kind of got me going like, what's going on? Because we normally don't get up to like 70 here in January, so it's kind of weird.
Good morning, Lori Evans in Denver.
Hey, good morning, Lori. Hey, everybody, this is Jason from Tampa Bay, Florida, and it's good to be here. It is a kind of chilly here. Nothing like what you probably are seeing, Dan, but glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Karen Lohoff. I live in Mesa, Arizona. So hello.
So today we're continuing our discussion of Chapter 3 and Chapter 3 of Love, Life, God by Jarrad Hewett. And last week we kind of talked about destiny and what our thoughts were on destiny and kind of the beginning of this chapter where it was talking about destiny and self-creation and what that means exactly. And it kind of transitioned into from talking about, what is destiny and what their idea of destiny was into this idea of letting go of our ideas of what we think destiny is so that we have more ability to create and manifest in our lives. And so today I wanted to just kind of transition over to the part where it talks about trust and trusting in yourself. And if you guys were watching last week's video, the recorded video on YouTube, you'll see that we kind of touched on this in our kind of after live stream party or after party. We kind of continued on talking about it after the live broadcast, and I went ahead and just shared that with our video on YouTube. So if you want to get in on the after party, then you got to participate with us. I'm only going to share that sometimes on YouTube when we talk about things after the live broadcast is over. But anyway, so we're talking about trust and moving into trust and trusting ourselves. So why is it important to trust ourselves when we're talking about our own self-creation with if we are going by what this book is saying, is that we create our own kind of experience in this life. And so they're kind of talking about why it's so important to trust ourselves. So I know you guys have all read at least parts of this chapter. Have you touched on the part where it's talking about trust? And if so, what are your thoughts about what was said in there? Who wants to jump out first?
I don't know that this fits in very well. You know that I've believed that the thing that I most wanted in my life was a good man to spend my life with. And 2 marriages in, I seem to draw to me not the kind of man that I intend in terms of sharing himself with me. And just for funnies, this morning while I was looking around on Facebook, because I don't normally go there, but I saw your link there, Samantha, which I really appreciate. I know you put it on my chain or whatever that's called, but this man that I have been kind of following and thinking I really would like to ask him if by any chance he was my first date. Somehow I got the idea, the muscle cars that were in that era, and um, anyway, that was making me think of that. And it came up that he got married. I think it said today. It might have said yesterday. And I thought, well, that's interesting because I hadn't been able to figure that out. And as I read down, probably a dozen or so comments, somebody said, I knew that. And he replied, I just updated my, updated, and I didn't realize it was going to put in that I just got married. He said, I've been married to the same woman for 43 years. And I thought, how many broken hearts were out there anyway, and how the hearts were being pulled together. I mean, it was just a funny thing to me. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Hancock, but Will Smith is able to jump to the moon, which is pretty cool. And so I could just see all these pieces coming back together. And so in terms of trusting ourselves, sometimes it's pretty dicey as to whether or not you can trust yourself.
Well, I'll jump out a little bit on to add on, but in it, I think I can tie it into the book a little bit too. In going through this book and how it talks about how, and we talked a little bit, and I said in the after hour stuff, predetermined, undetermined, however I said it last week. I can't totally remember exactly how I said it, but with that, um, uh, you know, in looking for love, it also talks about how we can, or I think it's trying to show that we can create our own destiny or our own journeys, or um, how to get in on that. And because for me, I haven't been married. I've been in love. I've been in relationships, but nothing's ever really, you know, um, and so that's, to me, has felt elusive, and I'm still trying to look at and find it, because I would love to have somebody to share my life with and be there for the bad times and the good times, and somebody that can prop me up and all that. And going through this book, it's kind of, you know, showing me that in this path, while I believe in God and everything and stuff like that, and I believe that there is kind of a semi predestined or something, that when we're connected back out of this experience and going back, that and I think I said a little bit about this last time, that I think we forget some of what our original plans are, and then coming here and then having free will and having everybody else kind of interject into our lives and everything like that, that we forget that we have some of the abilities to kind of direct our own paths, and sometimes we get sidetracked. And I think that's part of what's happened in my life. I've forgotten a lot of what, you know and to look and find that one that fits into, and sharing the journey I'm going on, and I can share on their journey. So I think that's some of the things that is really kind of you know been elusive for me. And so going through this book, it's kind of, you know, I'm sitting here going, okay, so do I really have the ability to kind of change, manifest what I would like, and the type of relationships I would like, and where I would like to go? So that's kind of where I'm at, and kind of like with you, Karen, um, you know, finding that somebody to even share that with. And Steve, I think we were waiting for somebody, but if you want to jump out, introduce yourselves, kind of let us know about you, and so we can introduce you to everybody that's listening and watching. If you want, jump out.
I was just going to say, welcome, Steve. Glad to have you on here.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here. Well, I mean, I live in New Braunfels, Texas, and I don't know, just came across this group and joined several weeks ago. Just always looking for like-minded people to just sharing in, reciprocate positive communication and just learn together.
Awesome.
So,
Well, glad
this
to have you.
group seemed to resonate with what I was looking for. So, so far I like to, I like the content that I see come across the Facebook page, and I'd like to, participate in this Saturday group as much as I can.
Cool. Glad to have you. So everybody's been kind of talking about some of what we're hoping to kind of create in our lives, and how this book relates to that. Of course, last week we talked about destiny and what we thought that destiny was, kind of like whether it was a preconceived thing or whether we thought that we could change it as we're here, etc. And we've been talking a little bit over time of, when we change the way that we look at things in the world change. I mean, that's kind of a cliche if you're in the self-development realm at all. But in here, it talks about moving into trusting what we're desiring, or trusting our own desires for creation. But the biggest thing that we kind of run into is that we get kind of hung up on this idea that, we can't do it, or that we can't make what we want to have happen. And so in here, it's kind of, I kind of wanted to read through some of what this was talking about in our book. And of course I have the Kindle version, so I had to print this out on paper. Okay, so it's talking about moving into trust. If you can't trust yourself, you can't trust the divine. If you can't trust the divine, you can't trust yourself. And in the previous chapter, it talked about self-love and loving ourselves so that we can kind of allow for what we want to have to manifest itself. And that if we're not in self-love, then we're in resistance. And so when we talk about loving ourselves and trusting ourselves, I kind of had this thought, one thing that I struggle with sometimes is I get stuck because I'm worried about the future, or worried about what's going to happen, or worried about whether I'm going to do the right thing or say the right thing, et cetera, et cetera. And so I kind of tell myself a lot of the time, one of my kind of comforting things that I say is, you always know the right thing to do. You always know the right thing to say. And then I move into kind of like, oh, okay, you know what to do. I can trust myself. I can trust the divine aspect of myself, or I can trust God and know that in the moment I'm gonna do what is necessary to do. However, I feel like a lot of times I get stuck because these worries come up, and then all of a sudden I'm frustrated and I get I start overthinking things, and then that's when I kind of run into walls and whatnot. And in one of the sections here, it talks about how we as a conscious, where is that section? And it talks about as consciousness on this plane is asking that creation become a little easier. I think that's what we run into, is we feel like this is just difficult so much of the time. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but we go through life and we have all these ups and downs, and chaos happens, and we're like, gosh, why does it have to be so hard? And yet at the same time, in here it's talking about, when we focus on this difficulty, more difficulty arises. And so then we actually are creating the slowness in our own existence, or our own difficulty. But that that we can change that if we start focusing on it being easier. And here's a good example I feel like comes up in our culture a lot, at least when you're a kid. I don't know if you guys have ever heard your parents or somebody in your life tell you that money doesn't grow on trees. Who's heard that? Has everybody heard that before? I know I said it once, Angel, and I'm sure Dad has too. But something that I've realized is that in all these different studies and everything that we talked about over the years, I've realized that is completely not true. I mean, where does physical money, what's it made from? It's made from freaking trees, right? And maybe not so much anymore, but at one point in time, paper, it's trees. And and when we start looking at the fact that everything that is produced in the world comes out of the earth in some way, shape, or form, then we realize, okay, it's just a matter of converting it into the actual money aspect. But like with this whole idea of money doesn't grow on trees, it made me think this one time of I'm like, well, actually, leaves fall on the ground. And if you really wanted to make money from trees, you just go out and go through your neighborhood and ask to rake leaves in your neighborhood. And you rake the leaves and you put them in bags, and then you charge the person, and then you have money in your pocket, right? And so we just change our perspective on things. And in our trucking business, the past number of years, all that we've done is we pick up sand and gravel in one place and we take it over to a customer, and then they pay us to do that. Well, where does that stuff come from? It just comes out of the ground. They just literally get it free out of the ground, and then they sell it to other people, and I get to take part in that little middle of the road part where I get paid to take it from one place to another. So this concept of money being hard to get is really just a mind thing, and we just have to change how we look at things in order to open ourselves up to these opportunities, right?
Yeah, it's something that came up for me when you were just talking and when I was looking in this about the self-love and stuff. But when you were talking about the money growing on trees and a picture came to my mind, not necessarily the same one you had, but a different one also. It made me think of like when they're building houses and stuff and how they have to get the ground ready and stuff and how the plow comes in and move. But at the same time, when the big whatever that thing's called, but that big huge where they're um you can have things come up and get in the way. They can hit a big stump, or they can hit a big boulder, or maybe something else was dug down there that could cause problems for so like when you're talking about how sometimes we create our own problems because we forget about the self-love and we forget about those things, and then we have the problems come along or somebody else comes in and interjects their free will into our stuff that kind of kinks it up, and we get focused on that, and somehow we're pushing on that to try and clear it out. But then as we're clearing it out, we come across other things that kind of well up and make us more frustrated rather than backing up from it and looking at it from what it is, figuring out what it is that's stopping us, and remembering. And I've been doing this a little bit more now. I've been kind of, whenever I'm feeling frustrated or kind of down, I stop and try and take a minute and remind myself of how loved I am and how blessed I am and how the people and the things around me and the things that are going on are blessings for me, to where hopefully I change that vibrational point I'm in, and where I can look at whatever that problem is, maybe go around it or find a way around, or remove it or find something that lets me get through it. And I think that's something that people don't realize, and I think more and more over the years as I've gone through a lot of the different books that we've done over the years has helped me, come to this point where I can sit there and remind myself, hey, you know, this is just one step or stepping stone, or moving me towards something that's hopefully better, or helping me figure out that, oh, this is not the path, you know, get through it and move on. And I'm also wanting to take the experience though and learn from it and grow from it, and let it be what it is that is something also to let me learn and grow and become more of who I want to be. So I think that's something I'm getting out of this and learning to understand the self love a little bit more because of my past history and things I've gone about, which most of you guys know about, you know, and there's still some deep down residue of, that I'm not worthy or that I'm not, enough when in actuality I am. And I still need to work and remind myself that sometimes.
I feel like last week we talked a little bit about that whole aspect of kind of trusting more of ourselves and the one thing that I keep going back to, I remember what it was that we were talking about. And I think this was after our live broadcast. I talked a little bit about kind of our journey when we decided to move down to Georgia, and we just kind of took this kind of leap of faith, if you will, that everything was going to work out. And I think a lot of times that we have to. That's kind of what it is. It's just kind of like this kind of decide which direction we want our lives to go, but then we have to trust that we're going to make the right choices to get there. But the problem I feel like is we've got all of this crap coming at us from every different direction, from our culture, from our families, from the society, from just everything, and then we lose track of what our focus is, and we forget that we start to feel like, oh, I have to control everything. I have to make sure that this happens and make sure that that happens or doesn't happen, and we forget to just trust that the things are going to come up in the right order for us to create whatever it is that we're working towards. And that was kind of one of the things that it was talking about here, is that if we can let go of all of these things we think we have to control, that by allowing ourselves to just move through our own creation and trust that we're going to make the right decisions in the moment, that we actually open ourselves up to much more than what we might have been able to make happen in our lives by trying to control everything. And I feel like in a lot of ways, this contradicts a lot of self-help stuff that's out there, because of, I mean, we've got a lot of books that we've read previously, not us specifically, but we have talked about reading in other groups or that sort of thing, where, we have to do all these specific things in order to be successful. And yet at the same time, these books that we've been reading more recently have been like, don't focus so much on the itty bitty every single little tiny thing that you're doing, and just allow for things to come at you and know that you're going to make the right decisions to get you where you need to go. And what's really interesting about that is just over the years and all the different things that my husband and I and my family have experienced, is that we always seem to be okay one way or another. I mean, sure, we go through some ups and downs, and we face some tough challenges, but we always manage to work through them. And a lot of times I feel like, if I had just had more faith, then maybe a different outcome would have happened, and maybe it would have been a lot easier. I guess and here it talks about, we want it to be easier, but yet we're the ones that are making it more difficult than it has to be. And I can tell you from experience in everyday life, as I'll start thinking about things I need to be doing office work wise for my business, and I'm like, I'm making all these lists, I'm doing all this stuff and making sure I'm checking off all these things, and I'm like, and I look back and I'm like, gosh, I could have skipped like these 15 things and just gone straight to this one and got everything done a whole lot faster and easier. But yet, I feel like I have to control every aspect of something, and I make it more difficult than it has to be. So I don't know, that's just kind of one thought that I had. I'll jump out, or somebody else jump out.
I've been watching some British TV. There's a website called acorn.com. And it's been very interesting to me. How many of you know who Stephen Fry is? Oh, good, Dan. He's
I've heard of
a
him.
British. What's that?
I've heard the name. I'm not totally sure of what he did in that sense, but I've heard that name.
Okay. He's a British humorist. And the reason that probably I've paid a little bit more attention to him is I don't know if he's bipolar, but he had a clinical depression during which he considered killing himself, which, most people who are in the limelight like that don't come right out and say, this is an experience that I've had. And so I've been paying more attention to him since I read about that. And he's really quite a large man. He's tall, and he's just a large man. And he acts as a solicitor, being in England. And the episodes always have a lot of varied different things that we just don't consider here in the US. And I just watched what at this point is the last one that I can see a couple of days ago, and he was really thrown off course. And I was thinking how all of us would be, but particularly a man. I think women run into this quite a bit, but you hardly ever see a man that's run into this. He had fallen, and he'd passed out, and he'd had experiences that took him to the doctor, and they had run lots and lots and lots of blood tests. And because of that, well, they found that he had type 2 diabetes. And you're thinking, well, big deal. But when he gets home and everyone who loves him gathers around to find out what he found out, he expresses that. And then he says, but the big thing is that I'm not related to anybody that I thought I was related to. He has a half sister. One of the episodes, he loses a half brother. He's not related to either of them. He's not related to his father, who's passed on. And he's sitting there thinking, if I'm not Peter Kingdom, who am I? And I think about all the things we've just talked about, all the things that deter us from our path, whatever it might be, or thinking about our path, and and how that would really, sock you in the gut and cause you to really wonder about your entire life. If you're not part of the family you thought you were part of, and you're not the son of the father you thought you were, that you're in business with, all of those kinds of things. Anyway, it just, while you were talking about some of the things that can deter us from trusting ourselves, there's always something. It seems to me that there's always something. You get on the road and you think, now, for example, I have a new computer. I was supposed to have it a week ago Thursday. I was supposed to have it to get on last Saturday morning. I didn't have it, and there's a new person here who has a laptop, the only other laptop in the house, and he was willing for me to use it. And I get on, and of course, it doesn't recognize me with the Mastermind Collective. And so then I don't get the little thing that says whatever, and I know none of my passwords. I have a password vault, so I don't know any, let alone Facebook. So, that really threw me for a loop. And then this morning, gyrations went to nothing until finally I came on late, and I should have been on early. but I do think that I think that we can be things can be thrown at us to really take us off course.
Karen, when you mentioned the person who tried to commit suicide and then found out that he had diabetes, it reminded me of, it's a completely different situation, but it reminded me of something that happened in my life where I had just had this feeling that it was time to get health insurance, randomly. I don't know, I guess I'd thought about it off and on for a while, but then, I just made a decision one day I was going to get health insurance. It wasn't like I stressed about it or was upset or whatever. I just decided it's time. And, so I went through the process to get that. And then, like, not a month later, I mean, I would say it was maybe 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks later, my husband's in a motorcycle accident. And because of having that health insurance, we ended up not having this ridiculous burden of medical bills because the person who had hit him had like the basic, the minimal auto insurance. And so without our health insurance, we could have been hit with just ridiculous bills. And I think about that sometimes over the years when I'm like, okay, I'm worried about financials, or I'm worried about, what's happening in the world and how things change, and I don't know what to do, or maybe I need to be prepared or whatever, or more prepared. And it comes back to this idea of just reminding myself to trust that I'm going to know what to do in the right time, in the right moment, in order for everything to be okay. And a few years ago when we decided to do our sell everything we own and jump in our RV and full-time RV for a while, it was crazy because we basically, by the time we had unloaded everything, got everything in there, I'm like worried that I'm not going to have enough money to make this thing happen, because it just, the way that it worked out. And then all of a sudden just money showed up. I mean, randomly, we got this random check in the mail that was for something that was from a long time ago that I hadn't even thought about. And there it was. And we had this money, and that made the beginning of our trip happen better. And it's little things like that where, well, and for instance, when we made this move to this house, before when we were in the apartment, Chris's truck had gotten stolen. And of course, before that, we had been searching and searching and searching and searching. And every single day we're looking for a place to live, looking for a place that we like, looking for, stressed about it and everything else. And then his truck gets stolen. And that very morning, I just drive down the road and bam, there's the right house for us. And I'm like, I don't know why we stress about things as much as we do. It's like we've been searching for a house to buy now since last March. And I keep trying to remind myself that, look, you just need to trust that when the time is right, it's going to happen. And, it's probably going to be minimal effort, and it's probably going to be better than what you thought it was going to be. And, it's just that whole, why is it so hard to just trust? We feel like we have to just control everything. At least that's how I feel a lot of times. I feel like I just have to control stuff and guide the whole process. And usually that's not what makes stuff happen. It's usually, it just happens on its own. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you feel like the same way? Do you feel like you have to control everything, or that you're trying to, I don't know, make stuff happen? And then what are your experiences?
I think what you're saying, Samantha, makes me think of Matthew 6:26-34, if you're familiar with that. Just to shorten it, just, basically, why do we worry about things when, God takes care of the birds in the air? And are we not more valuable to God than the birds? And just really made me think of that passage. And everything's in God's time. And you said just a little bit ago about everything always seems to work out one way or another. And I found that to be true in my life. And it's just God providing when we least expect it.
Yeah, I was going to jump out and say I tend to agree too, because it's interesting how over the last few years some things have played out. Whereas I lost my job in 2000. Well, I got let go of my job in 2016. Did some temp work that kept me busy for a year and a half, oddly enough. Um, and so that was kind of interesting in the fact that I had an open-ended contract with the one agency, and it kept me working for a year and a half. And then I found a position, and then I was frustrated and tired there. Then I found a job, but that job didn't work out. And so I moved into doing the Ubering full time in the middle of a pandemic, right after things were coming off of the lockdown a little bit. And I really jumped in with, because I resigned, so I couldn't get unemployment. I didn't have any real income coming in, but I knew, I've been doing Uber part time for the last 3 years at that point when I made that decision, and said, I had been doing fairly well doing that part time, so I just said I'll just do this full time. But it was one of those quick decisions because I had been so frustrated with the job I was in for the last 4 months from February to June, and just got so tired of the frustration and the constant questioning of my skills and abilities, questioning whether I had a degree or not, things like that. And I wasn't sleeping good and having trouble sleeping. And the minute I made that decision and sent off my resignation and got that finalized and everything, that same day I went out and started Ubering, but all my stress left. And it was kind of like, okay. But I'm also looking back at when I bought my car that I have right now. I bought it in 2014 and had it for 3 years before I even started doing Uber part time, but it's been the perfect car for it. And I realize now that how even some things play in to what you're doing, that you and provide for what you're going to end up doing long before you even get there. And then if you take that time to kind of review and look back, you see how everything kind of plays itself out. And it goes back into the part of this book about where, you were talking about that learning to trust a little bit, and just, you know, um, it where he says move into trust. If you can't trust yourself, you can't trust the divine. And I think that's a key part. And then going down underneath that to the big paragraph graph under it, it says, okay, many people say I must create in order to know that I am the creator. And this is, I'm assuming God, or, the source or whatever. And we say, you must know that you are the creator in order to create. And it says, why? When you are aware and focused on self love, going back to self love and knowing, that pure, um, I think, sense of love in the purest form. Um, when you're aware and focused on self-love, you will totally feel it. You will know it. You will be self-love. Therefore, you will know self-love. And we know this is a difficult explanation, so we will put it another way. Choose to know it works. And, he says that seems like a cop out, but the source or God, I'm going to say God because I believe that's who it is, but it's not. It's your choice that's always at play. When you can choose to know something, when you choose to choose, that's something you are directing your energy. This is what you must do. You must choose. You must choose to know. You must choose to love yourself. You must choose to choose love. And I think that goes into choosing love for other people and giving that out. And when you can do this, there will be no doubt for your world, your creation, your own self. You will show up differently and you will feel it. And I think when we get deep down into, for me, my connection with God and how I feel, and when I get back to that love aspect and keeping that at the forefront, I think that's when I feel the most authentic me, and I can move forward in that direction, and I can then allow for whatever comes in so I can move through it and get to whatever my direction that I'm working towards to get there.
Hey, that makes sense to me, Dan. Definitely makes sense to me. I like what you were saying about the when they're building a house and the foundation is being created, and they're using that front loader, and then sometimes they come across something in its path, and they have to kind of work around it and move it, and, so that they can create that solid foundation. I think what everybody is saying is so profound, and I like what the book is alluding to with keeping basically keeping the right mindset while you're taking action. So and how important that is, that you have the correct mindset, that you could be moving in the right direction, but if you have the wrong mindset, your mindset could take you off your path, or allow you to be susceptible to something else taking you off your path. At least that's what I'm getting out of the discussion. So I just wanted to add that.
That's really profound, Jason. I want to comment on your clothes. Did you move out of Florida to Minnesota? You look really warm.
Oh.
What you were saying made me think of Betty White. She's getting ready to celebrate her 99th birthday. And someone asked her what did she attribute her lengthy life, and she said it was to being optimistic, to being positive, and to sloughing off all the other that was not those two things. And I thought that was so good. She really looks good too. 99.
I was just reading here at the end of this chapter, and I want to kind of share this because I think that we've kind of all touched on a little bit of this. It's saying that the key to everything is self-love, because when you can love yourself, and we're talking about real divine cosmic love with no judgment, you love everything because you are all that there is. Every thought you offer is offered in the vibration of love, abundance, and of peace and joy, and your universe unfolds accordingly. Now, when you ask for something, no matter what the size or cost, and your vibration matches the thought, the universe, meaning you, will begin taking steps to fulfill your desire. And it's in this conversation medley or mode. If you haven't read the book, you won't know exactly what I'm talking about. But basically, Jarrad is having a conversation with Source or God or the universe, whatever your beliefs are. And so then he says, that's a little more complicated than I imagined. And so Source again says, when the sustained expansion of the vibration is joyous and matched by your thoughts, what will happen as the universe unfolds is that you will meet up with another desire, and a chain reaction will occur. Sometimes you ask and you will immediately receive. Other times you ask and receive a little, but another door has opened and you walk through that door and you receive a little more. Then you walk through another door and you receive even more. And as you continue to receive and want more, new realities are forming, which in turn form new desires. But if you offer forth the idea, I would like this, but your vibration does not match, you won't get what you think you're asking for. You get what you are vibrationally resonating with. So the key is to stay in love. And in trust also, because you have to trust that by being in love with yourself, the universe, and all that is that you will do and say and act and make all the right decisions to get you to ultimately where you want to be. And here's another thing that we've kind of talked about off and on here is, what is it that we ultimately want? You know, we say we want more money or a bigger house, or we want a spouse, or we want, you know, more friends or a better car or whatever. But what is it that we think we're going to get when we have those things? Is it that we just want the thing, or is it because of the feeling that we want to have? Because when we really dig deep into it, I think ultimately what we want is to feel that overwhelming feeling of happiness and love, right? And so if we can step into that to begin with and start from love and start from happiness, then everything that presents itself, if we love and enjoy and appreciate the things that we have, and when we follow where our interests take us, or our desires per se, then we're going to naturally create more of what we are enjoying and experiencing, and then we're going to have more, like, doors are going to open in the right direction and help us go to ultimately where we want to go, which is more love and more happiness, right? So I know we're at the top of the hour, guys, so everybody just kind of share a final thought on chapter 3, and then we'll wrap up for today.
What's the name of the book?
It's Love, Life, God by Jarrad Hewett. And yeah, Dan's showing an image of it. There's some links in the Facebook group, the event page, where you can click over and you can buy it on Amazon, or you can get to the free audio versions on Spotify or iTunes. And it's not an affiliate link. It's just a link to get you there. Or of course you can get it any number of places.
I wanted to share something that Christina Irvin shared, who has been a past panel member before, and due to things going on in her life, she hasn't been able to join us a lot much lately, but she posted on the live stream. She says, when we love and show ourselves compassion, we are better able to extend that to the world. We are connected to source, so it's like a snowball. And I think, you know, what she said there was a good way of showing it, that out of us, that love that we can show ourselves, and is true and genuine, then it, you know, we can express it fully and freely to other people, and then it kind of spreads. It's, you know, because I think we all agree that love kind of trumps everything and can kind of help overcome and you know, help us get past the bad things. And so therefore it can be that snowball effect, and bring things back to a more centered spot, and bring us closer, for me, closer to God, and help bring others closer to God in that sense. And so therefore I think that's the truest and highest vibrational point we can be at, is that, you know, true love and loving everybody the way that I say God, but in that realm it truly is, and where it's truly expounded and exposed and given.
Anybody else want to jump out before we wrap up for today?
I haven't been terribly compassionate towards myself in my life. And it's probably been just the last couple of years where I've been living with strangers, basically. And a lot of people, a lot more people than I ever lived with before, that I have been a little bit more compassionate with myself. And I do find that as long as I can stay in that state, I can be more compassionate with others. When I'm all gnarled up about how I've been acting, it pretty soon spews out to others around me.
The thought just came to my mind, I think while Dan was speaking, is like, well, how does one show that love for themselves? Do you just tell yourself, well, you love me? I love myself. I love myself. I appreciate myself, or what is it? It kind of dawned on me that maybe we each in our own way have our own way of showing that love and gratitude to ourselves, so that we can be in that higher state and that higher vibration. So that's what I was thinking.
I had a thought to kind of add on to that, Jason. I'd seen a video somewhere where it was kind of talking about that. It's like, if you're having issues trying to, show yourself self-love, just think, what would you do for your true love, or the person that you care about the most? How would you treat them, and how would you want them to feel? And once you got that, turn it around and do it to yourself, because in turn, that's really how you would like to be treated and how you want to feel. So it's kind of think of what you would do for the person or for anything that you care the very most about, and do that for yourself, and say that to yourself, and just tell yourself all of those nice, awesome things that you would ever say to that person or that thing or whatever it is. So I just kind of, that kind of like really kind of resonated with me, like, that kind of makes a lot of sense. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything. It could be maybe taking that chance that you wanted to take, that you haven't been allowing yourself to take, even, not necessarily having to do with anything in, not like sending yourself a note or leaving yourself a reminder, hey, you're doing a good job, or anything like that, but maybe, through our actions too. I think some people like to just take time out of their day, set it aside for themselves to maybe just get centered, or or do yoga, or delve into some scripture, or read a book, or just whatever it might be. But I think maybe doing that and recognizing it for what it is, that you're giving that back to yourself, rather than just going through the process. I don't know, but it just, yeah, it's like how can we get into that mindset of having love for ourselves, so that we can bring that along with us and push that out into the world as we go through and attempt to achieve our destinies.
I just want to add, only because I feel like this book that I'm reading right now parallels some of the things that I've heard, and some of the things that we've been talking about. And I feel like it could, parallel a little bit with this book. But has anyone ever heard of or read The Purpose-Driven Life?
I have actually joined in on an actual thing with my church, going through that whole book, and yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, it really is. Basically, it's just we were made for a mission, and we were planned for God's pleasure is the premise behind it. But it's a great book if you've never read it.
Thanks for sharing that, Steve. We love hearing about additional books that we can delve into.
Yeah.
It's always a great thing to do because
I would like to do that at some point, once we get through this and if there's nothing else planned next.
yeah, that's a possibility. We always kind of create a list of books that we're all interested in studying and do like a poll in the group, and then we all vote on them, and that's the next one that we go forward with. And then we always try and pull up the previous list to remind us of other ones we were thinking about going through. So yeah,
I'm sure it's a long list.
and we forget sometimes, and some of them we're like, I wanted to read that, but now I don't, no big deal, but yeah, we've been doing this since 20 I don't remember 20. I don't know. It's been a really long time. We've got like 310 videos on our YouTube channel now, and we don't meet every Saturday, but all of those were created on a Saturday. So figure that out.
We've been going for what, 5 or 6 years now?
Oh no, it's
At
like,
least.
I was just thinking yesterday, earlier, I don't know, at some point in the last 24 hours, I was knitting a blanket for my granddaughter that's going to be born in June, and realized that I started knitting back when my daughter was pregnant with my first grandson, who is going to be 5 this year. And we were in Georgia 5 years ago when that happened. And we had been there for a couple of years. And I started this before we ever left Westfield, which was a couple of years before that. So 7, 8, I don't know, something like that. I guess I could go back to the first video and go like, oh yeah, we've been doing this for 9 years now, or 8 years, or whatever. I know we look that up every now and then, and we're like, geez, I can't believe how long we've been doing this. But okay, for those of you guys who are out there and you're watching, thank you so much for adding your thoughts and comments on our live stream there on Facebook. It's good to hear from you, Christina. We always love hearing your thoughts and insights. You're such an insightful person that we appreciate you so much. And Lori made a comment in our little chat here to remind us that love requires trust. And that's so absolutely true. I mean, we have to trust ourselves and know that this love that we're putting out there is a good thing. And we have to trust in our spiritual self and in God and in whatever belief that we have about spirituality and religion. Is we have to trust in that, because that is our inner truth, right? And if we trust in our inner truth, then we know that what we are doing is going to be the right thing for us in the right moment at the right time. One of the things I just as my kind of final thought is one of the things I talked about last time on the after chat is this kind of idea of, throughout our lives, we work so hard to do what we think we're supposed to do. And this has been kind of my experience for a lot of times. We did the work that we thought we were supposed to do, and we went through, we had these struggles, life happened, things happened, and we always managed to be okay throughout all of it. But we were focused on what we thought we were supposed to do. And then we switched over. And of course, before we made the switch over, I said to my husband, I'm like, we have been making it happen one way or another, doing everything we thought we were supposed to do. Why not just make it happen, doing everything we want to do? And because it's the same basic, we're still going to have our ups and downs. We're still going to have this roller coaster of, a life that's, we're going to experience good and the bad and the fun and the not so fun. And it's going to be every which way. So we may as well be focusing on what we want to experience in our life while we're going through all these ups and downs. And so I think that really requires a leap of faith in ourselves, of faith in God and our beliefs. And who was it that was just saying, love yourself enough to trust. And and we really do. We have to love ourselves enough to trust that we're going to know the right thing to do in the right moment and the right time. So if we can move into that, then I think we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay regardless, but one way or another, it's going to be okay. And we know we've got to have faith that we can get, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. It's kind of one of those sayings that I've said before, and we've always got through whatever it was. So now we can just do it by just trusting and loving ourselves, right? So, okay. Anybody else have a final thing before I say goodbye? Okay, guys, it was great talking with you. I love everything that you have to say. You're wonderful. And Steve, it was great having you join us this week. Hopefully you'll come on next week too. And you're welcome to join us anytime. We love to have new people on here. And the more that we share our thoughts with one another, the more that we learn, the more that we all grow. So it's
Yeah,
wonderful.
thanks, sir.
Yeah.
It was good being here.
Great. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up for today. Have an awesome, amazing week. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, give us a like out there, put a comment, share your thoughts. And for those of you who are on YouTube, then click like and share the video. Subscribe to our channel so you'll get updated the next time. And if you'd like to participate with us, all you got to do is go to mindsetmasterycollective.com. That'll take you right into our Facebook group where you can see the link to join us or ask to participate. And we'll be meeting again next week at 10 a.m. Eastern for the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.